Traveling changed me forever. I think I'll never be the same after all the trips that I have had. I started my journey 2 years ago. I left Brazil. I am from a mid-sized city in Brazil, and there's not a lot going on there. In terms of culture, right? It's not a melting pot. It's not a touristic site. So I didn't have a lot of references when it comes to different cultures and different languages. Everyone there is basically speaking Portuguese and sharing mostly the same culture. And I'm not bashing on the city. I love my city. I love my friends and family. But I think at a certain point, I needed to get out. I needed to start exploring the world and learning new things because I felt that nothing new was happening. And I felt stagnated, right? A lot of people tend to follow their career paths and explore their way into maybe the corporate world, and they see this as a development or a type of evolution. But for me, just a career in the same place, in the same spot, with the same people wouldn't necessarily make me more knowledgeable. I needed to leave. And I gladly did it because, even though it can be a little overwhelming, right, to leave and start traveling alone for almost 2 years, that can be overwhelming and scary for a lot of people. And don't get me wrong, before I started, my first destination was Thailand, and I went there solo traveling with no information. I was overwhelmed, but once I set foot in Thailand, I felt great. My journey had become real, and I could feel that I was already absorbing cultures, things that I had never seen or thought about seeing beforehand. Traveling changes you in ways that are very difficult to convey if you haven't actually had the experience to travel, not for tourism, to travel in a more immersed, intense way, to live in the countries that you're traveling, not only going to touristic sites and doing what everyone does, following monuments and Google reviews. No, I'm talking about traveling, talking to locals, living the culture, going also to small cities in foreign countries and not only to the capital or the most touristic cities. This type of traveling. I've done it, and I will never be the same. And I know it's a very strong statement, right? Because I'm basically saying if I had stayed in my city, I would be that same person. And I love the person that I am now. So if I am able to at least influence or inspire someone to start a journey, I would love to do that. That's why I'm making this video. And that's why actually I started a YouTube channel. Not only to share my experiences, but also to thank the English language. I know that sounds weird, thanking the English language, but yeah, English was the tool that enabled me to communicate and explore the world, right? And one can say, well, nowadays we have AI, we have translation apps, we can just utilize them to get around. And that's true. I have met a lot of people that actually don't speak English, and they're traveling with the usage of those apps, right? Relying on translators. But if I had used only that, if I didn't know English and I had relied on basically apps and AI, I wouldn't have known the people that I know, because talking to someone is very different when you are actually able to express your own emotions and thoughts with the language than putting them on a translation. Because, well, making jokes, asking about family, sharing very specific touristic and maybe traditional things about your own culture can be extremely hard through those apps. You're not conveying the same emotion or feeling as when you're talking to someone, purely talking. So all of the people that I met in Vietnam, in Cambodia, in Malaysia, in Singapore, in Laos, in Finland, I have to thank the English language for that, because with this beautiful tool that I was actually able to get my message across and to understand what they wanted to convey, right? I have created beautiful bonds. I have friends that I will carry for life, right? That I only acquired through conversations in English. So I think traveling also gave me this huge appreciation for the English language and for life, because, well, in Brazil we have our own traditions, our own cultures, but those are not the only one existent, of course. But once you travel, is that you start seeing, wow, there are many beautiful cultures out there, and you start integrating some of those cultures into your life. Because it's not only because I was born in Brazil that I believe that everything in Brazil is perfect. Not at all. There are many traditions that I could acquire from other countries that could become part of my daily basis, my routine. Things that I think, wow, this is amazing. I wish we could do this more back in Brazil. And I know that there are things in Brazil that we could show the world too. A lot of people go to Brazil and they love it, right? And it's an exchange. Culture is exchange. But, we can search. I can see videos about those countries. I can learn and read books about those countries that I've been to. But the experience of being there, living there, creating bonds with locals it's impossible to measure. It's way bigger than just studying or reading. It's something that becomes embedded in your system. It's a neuroplastic type of process that will never be detached from your synapses. So, I think I cannot be the same anymore. And this even makes me a little bit anxious about the fact that I'm going to be returning to Brazil, because I know that I have already lost some of the traditions that I used to have back when I was in Brazil. And then you can think, wow, well, that's not even a long time. It's almost 2 years. It's under 2 years. But yeah, but you change. And things that are even frowned upon in Brazil that I always stop myself from doing, I prevent myself from doing, which is, for example, kissing on the cheek, right? In Southeast Asia, that's a no, you don't do that, right? So nowadays, the idea of greeting someone and kissing on the cheek is very strange for me. I don't want to do it anymore. But I know that I will be expected to do this once I'm back in Brazil. So I need to also align myself again to the traditions that I grew up with, that I even don't believe anymore. So yeah, you change. And I'm not saying that one is better, the other is worse. No, I'm just saying that the amount of experience and new memories that you create while traveling is greater, way greater than if you stayed only in your hometown or in your own country, because you don't have a lot of new information going on. Yeah, maybe you can travel around your country and meet new people, but if you are in a total different culture with different weather, landscapes, language, traditions, religion, you need to adapt. And that is growth. I have grown so much because of my travels. And I don't regret anything. I think it has been the best, most beautiful moment in my life. And I want to keep doing it. I'm going to return to Brazil. I'm going to see family. I'm going to see friends. But the idea is to continue. I cannot stop anymore because there's a lot to see. Probably now, maybe I can go to Latin America and see countries around there. I can now use Spanish. A lot of people might think that in Brazil we speak Spanish, or at least we learn Spanish as a second language. We don't. Very, very few Brazilians actually are able to speak in Spanish, which is a shame because linguistically speaking is a pretty easy language to learn for us because we speak Portuguese, so they're quite similar. I luckily learned fluent Spanish because I have taught Latin Americans across Central America and South America English. I used to tutor English specifically for Latin America that's outside Brazil. So I learned Spanish. And now it's the moment that I can appreciate the language, the Spanish language, in the same way that I appreciate English, right? So to go all across Latin America and utilize Spanish will give me this beautiful feeling that I had with English throughout my trips around Southeast Asia and now here, where I am in London, in the UK. So why am I saying all of this? Because first, I want to create a community. I want you to share if you think about traveling, if you would even go on a solo trip, or if you are traveling right now, and if you could share your experiences with us, because I think everything here would be a beautiful additional information that we can exchange. I am not more experienced than anyone. I am just sharing the knowledge that I have acquired throughout the trips. And if any of this information could help you, I'm happy with it. If it doesn't, I'm sorry for wasting your time. But I know that everyone that is watching has an experience to share. You don't need to be a traveler. Maybe you are urging to travel. Maybe share this. Share why you haven't traveled, why you haven't taken the action. Is it money? Is it because you're overwhelmed? Is it scary? Let us know, because I think exchanging information here always helps, right? I think that's the goal that we have. When I was in Southeast Asia, I stayed there for almost a year and a half. Everything was new to me. And as I mentioned, I was solo traveling. So the people that I met there were people that I was basically meeting through hostels, hotels, restaurants that I would randomly talk to, people at restaurants or even at bars, or even sometimes in tours. If you join a tour, I'm not much of a tour guy, but sometimes some tours were actually very helpful. I think the beauty of traveling is that you can not only see the locals that are there, but other travelers, meeting people from other parts of the world and understanding their history, or their story, better saying. It's crazy, right? To admit that I will never be the same. That's how powerful traveling is. I will never be the same. I'm a different person. And I would have never become that person if I hadn't traveled. That's crazy. That's how powerful traveling is. And I know that it's difficult for people to understand, the ones that haven't started a journey like this. Time passes by so fast. Sometimes we think about career paths and, investing and saving money for whatever reason, maybe health issues or to purchase a house, to help family. But in the end, time doesn't come back. And I know that now it's the time for me to do everything that I can while I'm healthy, while I'm capable, while I don't have responsibilities that would actually stop me from it. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people might say, oh no, I can't because of this and this and this. I could say that as well, but I just try to not give excuses. I understand that is hard, of course, if you have kids. That's a different story. I don't have kids, so that's different. And I respect that, of course. But I know that there are a lot of people in my situation that could be exploring the world and growing in ways that are unimaginable. But well, I hope you can share your experience, and I hope you can start traveling too.